Okay, good evening. Welcome to the third NPA webinar about our Day for Action tomorrow. We're going to have for the next 45 minutes, Paul give us an update on where we are and what's going on over tomorrow. And we're also then going to have reflections from Sanjeev Panasar, one of our board members. After which, then we're going to have an open question and answer session. Please ask us anything at all, and we should be hopefully wrapping up in the next 45 minutes. I'm going to keep the introduction short tonight, and without further ado, hand over to Paul. Paul, thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Nick, and thank you everyone for logging in to tonight's webinar, our third, as Nick said, and final webinar in preparation for the big day, our Day of Action tomorrow. So if we move on to the next slide, please. This all began when Rishi Sunak surprised the nation and called an early election, and we wanted to make sure that we got the issue of the chronic underfunding of community pharmacy onto the political agenda at a time when politicians are actually listening. Next slide, please. So we've sent out all of the campaign materials. This is what we've sent out to pharmacies in England. The poster, which I've seen, has been put up in hundreds, thousands of pharmacies across England, which is amazing to see. The stickers and the petition sheets, and the petition which builds on the earlier Save Our Pharmacies petition, has now gone over 100,000 signatures, which is absolutely amazing. And then next slide, please. This is what we sent out to the members of the NPA in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, a slightly amended message through the poster, but also the stickers and the petition sheets. Next slide. So the great news is, if we move on to the next slide, we can see that people across the land are using our posters. Oh, we've just jumped on one slide there. So I think if we go back one, you can see people are using the posters that have been sent out in the campaign packs, and you can see at the Lumley Pharmacy there, that's actually something that wasn't sent out in the campaign packs, but someone has brilliantly printed that out from the website and got actual, I think, a local printer to do a special version for the windows. So that's blacking out the windows. That's incredibly excellent and rousing to see that being done. And you can see also the standard campaign poster in windows and on walls in other pharmacies there from around the land. And if we move on to the next slide, please, we can see again campaign materials out and about, which is great at different pharmacies in various places, and also the petition in one instance. And if we move on to the next slide, we can see when it ticks over that we have got the issue of community pharmacy onto the political agenda. Nick, our chair, was on the Today programme a few weekends ago. I was on BBC One, and Nick was quoted on BBC Radio news programmes actually across the network. And then I was quoted the next day in terms of our views on the Conservatives' proposal to expand Pharmacy First, where I said that obviously community pharmacies are currently chronically underfunded and more investment is needed to prevent closures and the system being irreparably damaged. And then on the same day, Laura Kunsberg used NPA briefing material to really put pressure on the Health Secretary, Victoria Atkins, asking her, how could you be talking about an expanded role for community pharmacies when 1,400 pharmacies have closed in England in the last 10 years, and 10 are closing a week. Next slide. So the great news is that our Day of Action's already had media attention. It was on Good Morning Britain last week. This is a still from their news bulletins. Next slide, please. You can see when that slide ticks over. Our slides, what's happened to our slides? Our slides seem to be stuck. So we were in the Daily Mail a couple of weeks ago. The Daily Mail got one or two facts slightly wrong, but the key thing is they were talking about the Day of Action and talking about the underfunding of community pharmacy. And then if we move on to the next slide, it was covered also on Talk TV, and that's Thoran Govind, obviously a pharmacist who does great work and is often on the television talking about the reason for our action. The media, sometimes like to talk things up, as you'll know, so often they've been talking about it as a strike, but obviously we explained that it's not a strike, it's a series of actions to show and demonstrate just how concerned community pharmacy teams are up and down the country. And then if we move on to the next slide, we can see that it's been getting coverage in regional media. So this is the Belfast newsletter, Northern Ireland pharmacies to turn out the lights on June the 20th, an emergency protest. And then the next slide is also from Northern Ireland. The lovebelfast.co.uk website, Northern Ireland pharmacies to join blackout protest against funding cuts. And if we move on to the next slide, there is a headline from a local newspaper in England, local pharmacists to turn off the lights and wear black in their protest, and that's the Wellington Weekly News. So it's getting coverage in the national media, it's getting coverage in the regional media, and it's getting coverage in the local media, and that's what we want. We want to start a conversation for people to be talking about it, understanding the pressure that you are under, understanding the pressure the sector's under, and then talking about it in turn to the politicians. Next slide, please. So before the election was called, the NPA produced a document with the CPE, CCA, and Royal Pharmaceutical Society, and together we were calling for a better deal for community pharmacy, and all of those organisations have continued to call for very similar things to us: a fair deal for community pharmacy and sustainable funding to stop the closures, to end the rot, and allow community pharmacies to actually not only survive, but also thrive. Next slide, please. So we want to influence the general election, and we want to do that across all 4 nations of the UK. Next slide. So this is our NPA battle bus. This is an early designed version of what it will look like. And this is tomorrow going to be travelling to various key constituencies. So Keir Starmer's constituency, this constituency of Ed Davey, the constituency of Oliver Dowden, the Deputy Prime Minister, and to the party HQs of the 3 main parties, getting the message across that there is a state of emergency within the pharmacy sector and imploring the politicians to sit up and take note. Next slide, please. So tomorrow, hopefully, meeting the NPA battle bus is Daisy Cooper, Deputy Leader of the Lib Dems. At the moment, she's penciled in a meeting with the battle bus, and obviously with elections, schedules change, timetables change, so it may not happen, but at the moment that is penciled in her diary, and that will be happening early tomorrow morning. Next slide. Also, the Labour Party have asked to be kept up to date about the day of action and asked us to send them details of what was planned. So we've already got the politicians taking note. We've already got the politicians wanting to find out more about what's going on. And that was the purpose of the day of action tomorrow. Next slide. As we mentioned last week, for the first time ever, all 3 parties talk about community pharmacy. The Conservative Party manifesto says that they will increase pharmacy first spending by 1,150% if they win the next election. Next slide. The Lib Dems pledged to work towards a fairer and more sustainable long-term funding model for pharmacies. So talking about core funding and building on the pharmacy first approach to give pharmacists increased prescribing rights. And then the Labour manifesto, next slide, please, actually talks about the introduction of an independent prescribing service. So all 3 manifestos, all 3 major parties are talking about community pharmacy, and that's a first, and that's because we and others have got the issue onto the political agenda. Next slide, please. So tomorrow is our day of action, one day to save our pharmacies. Next slide. So on the day, we're asking you to turn off your lights between 9 and 11, but please ensure that the lights are left on in the dispensary and that patient and staff safety remain paramount. Promoting the day of action using the hashtag Save Our Pharmacies. Please do use that on social media. We're asking staff to wear black, and obviously myself and Nick are wearing black today in preparation for tomorrow, and that's to underscore the dark times in which community pharmacy currently is. Blacking out windows in pharmacies, again, ensuring that patient and staff safety remains paramount. Inviting parliamentary candidates to pharmacies. I've spoken to a number of people today and yesterday who are actually having parliamentary candidates come to their pharmacy tomorrow to talk about the funding crisis, asking patients to sign the petition. The petition has roared through 100,000 signatures in the last 24 hours. So that is absolutely fantastic, and we want to keep building on that. And also on the day, we're asking pharmacies to highlight the challenges that you face in the local media and on social media. Next slide. So social media is key. We can use social media to really get the message out there. And so if we move on to the next slide, we can see that the key thing is to use that hashtag. If we use the hashtag Save Our Pharmacies, that is going to help push the message out across all social media channels. Please do use it on X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Please use our template guide for the wording of posts to share on your local Facebook groups and social channels. That's all on our website. Print out our downloadable poster. Take a photograph outside your pharmacy with the poster and share on your social media channels using hashtag Save Our Pharmacies. And please check out the social media toolkit, which includes template posts and graphics to share on socials. And again, that is on our website. The URL is npa.co.uk/2024/06/14/day -of-action-social-media-posts. That's where you find all of that great content. Next slide. So please use different forms of posts, including short videos outside your pharmacy, use photos and videos of staff wearing black, photos of patients waiting outside, and ensure photos and videos are high quality and taken in natural daylight, please. Next slide. So there's a social media toolkit homepage, and this is what it looks like, day of action, social media posts, and you can look at our day of action social media posts below, and there are various links, a poster link, social media template post link, and social media graphic links. So they're all there on the homepage. If you go on the homepage of the website, there's on the carousel, you click on the link to the campaign, and then you'll see all of those links on that page. So it's easily accessible. Next slide. On the actual day, so tomorrow, do a couple of hints and tips. One of them, as I mentioned earlier, is when the lights are up between 9 and 11, please keep lights on in the dispensary. Ensure that patient and staff safety remains paramount. Same goes for blacking out of windows. And in terms of asking patients to sign the petition, we did have one or two members asking us early on, how did that work with data protection? We sought legal advice, and the advice was clear that people, when they sign a petition, they know their personal data will be used for the purposes of the petition. So there is the implied consent, but there's also an NPA privacy statement, which is on our website, and that covers the use of our petition. So please don't feel concerned about data protection. That's all covered. All of the other guidance for tomorrow has been shared via the weekly member roundup, which is issued on Fridays at 5:45. Next slide, please. And so essentially, to wrap up my presentation, as I've said each week, all of these actions that we're doing, all of the messaging we're getting out there, all the communications we're pushing out there, and all the great work that you're doing locally to engage with patients, engage with politicians, it's all aimed at one thing, and that is to get a fairly funded community pharmacy sector across all 4 nations of the UK. And at this stage, I will hand back to Nick.
Thank you, Paul. Lots of work going on. Some questions coming in. Please do keep them coming in. And now we're going to hand over to Sanjeev. Sanjeev, over to you.
Hi, thanks, Nick, and thanks, Paul, for a bit of background on that. So I'll introduce myself, as some of you may or may not know me. Sanjeev Panesar, so I joined the NPA board in 2020. And it was been on the LPC for many years, but the NPA, I've had a real big insight into see what we do to really help our members engage with the lobbying that we're all trying to fight at the moment to support our cause. So I think all of us as pharmacists have always had a misnomer, actually, to be fair, in terms of NPA and CPA thinking, do the people on these boards, do their representatives, do they understand what we're going through? I'm a contractor. We've got 7 pharmacies in our group. It's very much a family business. We've been around for 40 years. So my parents set up the pharmacy, and we are really feeling the pinch. We are day to day really trying to time all of our cash flows every month. And we're in a real big worry of how we're actually going to continue. So we really feel the effects that everybody is feeling. We have had to put our own personal funds in, and we're now at the stage where we're having to make some really tough decisions. So we are really working hard to see how we can affect change, how we can lobby and influence the government to support us and improve the funding model that we've got on the contract model. And Paul's alluded to some of the outcomes of that already, where all the various parties are really engaging and including us in their manifestos, which is fantastic to see. And there was the Health Select Committee report as well recently, where there was an inquiry into our sector, which has really highlighted and brought our issues to the forefront. So tomorrow is all about really trying to build on that, and again raise public awareness. I think what I've certainly found is that we're very insular. Actually, we know our own issues, we know what we're going through, but the public, and actually many of the businesses don't realise what our sector's going through. So I actually had a 20-year school reunion a week or two ago. Met loads of other friends from obviously when we grew up all into different industries. They had absolutely no idea what state of affair the pharmacy sector is in. Didn't realize that there's no more Lloyd's pharmacies really on the high street. So a lot of people are really shocked to understand how tough our sector is. And that is the point of tomorrow. We've met with GP surgeries. A lot of GP surgeries are completely oblivious to the funding challenges that we've got. And same with patients as well. So I think tomorrow is really all about raising that awareness, raising the profile of the struggles we're going through, getting the public backing, getting more petitions on side. So again, we can continue the lobbying that we've got going forward and raise the profile about the struggles that we're going through. So I think for me, it's a case of trying to think, how can we engage the public, thinking about tomorrow. Paul's gone through a lot of things there with respect to obviously covering the windows. Some people may think we haven't got posters. We've had suggestions of you could use black bin bags to potentially cover the windows just for a few hours. Obviously, the turning off the lights for a few hours as well. There's even been ideas of turning off your phone systems for a little bit, or having a message there just to explain to patients what's happening, and that essentially, you'll be reopening those lines of communication within a couple of hours. So we've always had this thing in the sector that we want to strike. That there's always been that feeling that, can we strike? How can we again raise that awareness and have a firmer stance? And that's been in the background for many years for contractors, and we've heard that in various forums. So this is our way of really putting that stance out there. I think it's the first time in many years, if ever, that I've actually seen pharmacy and protest, those two words, brought together in a public profile. So I think tomorrow is a fantastic opportunity for us to build on that. But it is all about strength in numbers. And I think that's the key thing here, is trying to get as many pharmacies engaged in tomorrow into the Save Our Pharmacies campaign, trying to get as many petitions signed from public, from other local businesses, local GP surgeries as well, and really trying to improve on what we've already built so far. And especially now at this key time when we've got the general elections on the doorstep. So it's a fantastic opportunity for our sector to build on the momentum we've got, and we'd really just ask to everybody to engage as much as they can, post on social media like Paul has said, and again, if there's any opportunity to share ideas now in tonight's forum, I think that would be really great as well in the Q&A section as well. It'd be really good to hear some of your feedback, any concerns you've got, any ideas, so we can help each other as businesses as well and as a sector.
Thanks,
okay,
Sanjeev. Yeah, thanks, Sanjeev. That's fantastic. So I'm going to run into the Q&As now. So we have got a couple of questions coming through already. So I'm going to direct the first one, I think, to Paul, if that's okay. So Paul, we've got Matt asking, why can we not go further? And so why can we not strike? Why can we not do that? Why is the NPA recommending the things that we're recommending? So maybe you can just go through that and remind everyone, Paul. Thank you.
Of course, yes. Well, it's a finely balanced issue, and obviously there is sort of tougher action that members could take. So they could close for the day, they could withdraw from pharmacy first, and there are other sort of similar actions such as that. Now, the downside to that is we took legal advice, and our lawyers said that our members would then be in breach of regulations and would be fined. That's number one. Number two is that unless the polls are incredibly wrong, and it's the biggest upset in political history, the Labour Party is going to form the next government, and the current iteration of Labour is very much like New Labour, and they are trying to show how friendly they are to business and how sort of tough they might be towards union activity. So given that's the case, I think it was felt that we knew our members wanted to do something. I think having taken the legal advice on board, having spoken to lots of members who said they didn't want to take strike action, they didn't want to withdraw from Pharmacy First, we did a poll of our members and gave them a list of activities that could be done, and certainly the turning out the lights, the wearing black and blacking out the windows came out top. The other thing I think is important to say is that we work collaboratively with similar bodies around the world, and there were strikes in Germany quite recently, and they had no impact at all. And actually, speaking to German colleagues, they said if they could rewrite history, they wouldn't have chosen to do that. And then also, there were strikes recently in France, and again, so far there's sort of been no victory, if you like, coming out of that. One international equivalent that did have success was the Australian Guild, and they took action that was more targeted, more about shaping the agenda, more about getting politicians to sit up and take notice. And what we're doing is more sort of akin to what they did. But obviously, moving forward, we want to keep this campaign going. We won't, win the campaign in one day. We won't win it overnight. So we'll keep on looking at all the options and recommend to our members the action we think that will get the support from across the sector, because of course the sector's got many different types of organisations, lots of different perspectives, and also the one that is the course of action that's most likely to gain success and traction.
Thank you, Paul. A really good answer. Again, the legal advice being taken, all things considered. And again, I was seeing something the other day on social media, which somebody said, in 50 years of them being a pharmacist, they'd never seen anything like this ever. So I don't think we should underestimate, even though some people want to go further, this is really cutting through, and people are noticing. And it's what our members have told us that they're happy doing as well, Paul. I think that's a really important collegiate way of looking at it. So I've got a question in from Amanda. Team, what's the deadline for sending the petitions to us?
I think we'd be really keen for people to send in completed sheets when they've got them. Just take an image on your phone and then share that with the address that's on our website. We're going to keep the petition open after the election because we want to keep the campaign going, and we're going to look to close it towards the end of the year. But what we'd urge people to do, and people are doing that, is when they complete a sheet or several sheets, take a picture of all those sheets, send them through to us. We then are keeping a running total, and then we can add, to the number. And as I say, the figure's gone through 100,000, building on the success of the earlier iteration of the Save Our Pharmacies petition. So please just keep the signatures coming through, and please do encourage patients and the public to lend us their signatures for the campaign.
Fantastic. Thank you. Last question we've got coming in at the minute, Mohammed. Remind us of the hashtag. What's the one that's important? The media pack seemed quite detailed. What's the one that everyone should be using?
The key one is hashtag Save Our Pharmacies. We need as many people to use it as possible, and of course, the more frequently people use that, particularly tomorrow, the more you bump up the interest in that particular topic, and the more coverage you get, and the more it makes an impact. So please use hashtag Save Our Pharmacies, and please use it tomorrow as much as possible.
Great. Thank you. So I think I'm going to give people some time back in their lives. I know everyone's really busy. So it's a massive thank you for joining us after a busy day at work. This is our day tomorrow. It's your day. It's our day. It's one day to save our pharmacies. We won't win the campaign in that one day, but tomorrow is so important. I thank you so much for all the support already. Seeing Sanjeev bring the real world to life about why we're doing this. The NPA board is made up of people like you who know what's going on and who know how it feels. So that's why this is so important, and already inspiring to see, as Paul's described, all those sites with all the things all over the country already going up. people going to their own expense to put those things up. We're there to support you. Let's show the country what we can do tomorrow. And thank you so much for all your help. Have a great evening. I look forward to seeing all the media posts coming in tomorrow. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Good luck, everyone, for tomorrow. Bye.